Okay, we'll come back to some more figures in just a moment. But after touring various electrical, that's a bit of a voodoo word in politics these days. After touring various electoral booths today, the party leaders Mike Rann and Isabel Redman have now squirreled themselves away from the media spotlight to absorb the results as they come in. And it's anybody's guess what time they'll emerge to claim victory or concede defeat or acknowledge an uncertain outcome. The ABC's political reporters Nick Harmson and Angelique Johnson have been following the campaign, and they're on location now at both party headquarters. Nick, I'm not quite sure whether there's much or any action at the moment, but how would you summarise the mood?
Well, Kerry, the crowd is rolling in a little slowly here at Labor headquarters, and I think worried is the word which sums it up. I've spoken to a number of people and they are very concerned. Of course, 6 or 9 months ago they would never have thought they would be in this position. And even in the past few days, the people I've spoken to in Labor have still been at some point confident of hanging on. Now the result most likely, according to them, is a hung parliament. The key seat for Labor is Adelaide. If that swing gets up and around Adelaide, that's real problem time for them. That means that the Liberals might be able to form government in their own right. So they are very concerned, and there are a few worried faces here tonight.
And in fact, Nick, I would think that as you've followed this campaign from start to finish, although obviously the trend away from Labor had begun before the campaign started, it became a hemorrhage, did it not?
Indeed, and look, Labor has always been expecting a big swing against it in some of those safe seats. What they were expecting was to do better in some of the individual seats, and some of the polls we've seen throughout the campaign have shown that Labor is doing better than the statewide vote in some of these key marginal seats. But today, some of the figures are really worrying for Labor. It'll be interesting to see just how far that swing goes and to what level it's a uniform or variable swing. Swings are never uniform, I guess, but there is some concern that things are going to be all over the place tonight.
Angelique, what's the mood like at Liberal headquarters?
There are only a handful of people here at the moment, including Simon Birmingham and Jamie Briggs, federal MPs, but I'd have to say the mood is extremely upbeat. It's very, very positive, even to the point where Jamie Briggs, when he saw the results of the Sky News exit poll, pumped his fist slightly when he saw that the Liberals were ahead 53-47 on a two-party preferred vote. I've tried to gauge what they're hearing from polling booths. They are keeping cards close to their chest, but very, very positive at the moment.
I think when things appear to be going your way, that's when you become more cautious, actually.
Definitely. Jamie Briggs is, on his laptop and he's looking at the figures from the ABC website. I've asked him what his scrutineers are telling him, and he's not saying too much on that point, but he does definitely have a big smile on his face, and it looks like a good result at this stage.
Thanks very much for that, Angelique. Now, we've got some figures in for the seat of Hartley, which of course is one of Labor's crucial seats inside that band of 7 seats that are under 7%. Dean Jensch, what's the story in Hartley?
We only have Campbelltown reported, but I think it's a very important component. Campbelltown is usually leans towards the Labor Party. In the last election, it was 60% two-party towards Labor, but there's been a 16% swing to the Liberal Party on this occasion. Now, that is on first preference votes, but I think that puts Hartley already very much in the doubtful for the Liberal Party to hold it, the Labor Party to hold it.
Kevin Foley, are you picking anything up from your...
Well, Kerry, look, I think it's far too early to be really making any comments. Not that I disagree necessarily with Dean, but Light, I'm told 6% of the vote is counted and only has a swing against Labor of 0.3% now. That would indicate that we need to see a lot more votes in. We're seeing Newland actually has some obscure boosts with a swing to Labor. So, but I do agree the 16% swing appears to be on in parts of Hartley in a booth, and about a 10% swing in a couple of areas of Morialta. But it's all over the place, but the vote at this stage is far too slim to get a read. I just want to make one point. One seat that I'll be mildly confident we can hang on to in that band of 7 seats is that seat of Mawson. Even though it's only a 2.2% margin, it is a very special seat. It had a very strong personal following from the previous Liberal member. And Leon Bignell, I think, just might pull a rabbit out of the hat down there. That's one that I'm hoping that will withstand the tide.
And what about Chloe Fox's seat?
Well, again, I think Chloe's been a brilliant candidate, and I think she can hold on. But again, you know, in the absence of the data, it's a bit too close to be making predictions. I think I'd rather wait and see what unfolds.
Rob, you mentioned Adelaide earlier, and you were saying that there are parts of the electorate that were showing significant swings. Was there any pattern to how that was showing up?
Well, we don't know what the pattern is. There are a number of issues which we believe, I guess with the benefit of hindsight, are going to come to play in Adelaide, the Royal Adelaide Hospital, which has been a key issue. There are lots of doctors and health-related professionals in Adelaide. The land tax issue, which has been important in the eastern seats, also in Adelaide. And also there are a lot of lawyers, and the issue of law and order has been a touchy one over the last 8 years for this government, and lawyers have their particular view. The Premier has had their particular view of lawyers.
I wasn't sure there was... I didn't realise there'd be so many lawyers thick on the ground that could actually make a difference in it.
Well, as I said, this is a cumulative thing, and then you add the Isabel Redmond factor and the other issues that we've campaigned on. Then maybe that is an issue to have a look at. But quickly, the cautionary note at these sorts of early stages are, Dean, for example, in Light mentioned the Gawler River booth, and I had a quick check, and I think last time there were about 110 voters there, and there were 19 hardy souls who voted for Labor. So if there's a 4% swing, there might have been 4 extra people who swung to Labor in Gawler River. So it is variable with the early ones. The Moree Alta, we're certainly getting the same thing with 2 or 3% of the vote counted. Looks like 10%, and that did reflect one of the opinion polls in the local newspaper here in Adelaide.
And what we may find is that, I think we can expect some real escalation in the count just in the next 10, 15 minutes. Now, Dean, you've got some primary figures in a few of those interesting...
Well, let's take Grace Portalisi's seat of Hartley. The primary figures there are 49.5% of the vote for Joe Scalzi, who's the Labor Party challenger, 37% of the vote to Grace Portalisi. Now, that, in two-party preferred terms, is around about a 16%.
The Liberal challenger. Yeah.
Liberal challenger, sorry. We could turn to Newland. Now, we have mentioned Newland, but it's one of those seats which is in the band. It needs about a 7% swing. Tom Kenyon in the Labor Party has managed to get a 7% swing in the favour of the Labor Party. 171 votes for Liberal, only 98 for Tom Kenyon. But Tom... there are graphics there. Trish Draper, Tom Kenyon. Trish Draper is leading on first preference votes. But if you look at the two-party preferred vote, it means that Tom Kenyon has picked up from Green preferences especially. Another seat is Moree Alta. We've mentioned Moree Alta. There you can see the swing in Newland, 7%. To Labor Party. In Moree Alta, it's another one of those class of 06, the members of Parliament who came in with the landslide to the Labor Party. Lindsay Simmons is a sitting member. There was a poll during the campaign that showed a 10% swing against her. In primary votes, John Gardner for the Liberal Party is leading quite easily. 4.8% counted, so it's getting up. And there, that's Parracombe, Cuddly Creek. Sorry, wrong electorate. I'll get back to it in a minute. The swing is 9.3% in Moree Alta to the Liberal Party, so that means the Labor Party is going to have great trouble in holding it.
OK, just get back for a very quick reaction for those seats. Moree Alta?
Well, look, I just had a call to say that after 5.3% of the vote, that in 3 booths there was a 6.5% swing against Labor, so that conflicts a little with what we've seen. So I think we've got to be a little bit careful taking data as it's phoned through from polling booths. We've got to wait until we see it on the screen. But look, Moree Alta is always going to be a tough call. I mean, that was a strong Liberal seat. It had a very large swing to us at the last election. There is one thing that, and Rob was in Parliament at the time, that I noticed back in 1989 when Labor was not in a dissimilar position, is that the larger the swing, or the larger the margin, the larger the swing, and as you came down to the more narrow margins, the swing was much less, which just reflects the fact that it swung violently one election and it swings back strongly the next. So, I'm still quietly hopeful that there'll be some surprises there for Labor.
We're going to cross back to the ABC newsroom in a moment just for a very brief news update. But I do want to take a quick look at, get an overview, a sense of overview of what's happened even at this early stage in the night. And with 1.8% of the vote counted across the state, in two-party preferred terms, and this is not a totally accurate figure, this two-party figure, because there's some distortion due to the 5 independent seats. But we're talking about a two-party percent swing away from Labor at this stage, with that vote of only 1.8% of 4.4% away from Labor to the Liberals. That's a figure that's, you know, it's an indicator rather than any sense of real accuracy. If we got time, Dean, we might just look at the scoreboard, which will show, and most of the seats we're allocating at this stage are seats that are clearly safe seats. 20 seats won to Labor, 9 seats to the Liberals, and it's showing a change of 1 seat at this stage. But if you look at the bottom of that graphic, you'll see 17 seats in doubt, and that's the story of the night so far. We'll have to keep going, Dean, because we've got the newsroom standing by. So we will cross to the ABC's news studio for a brief update on the day's news and weather with Jessica Shack.